Good evening. So it is Sunday, the 24th of January, 2021. I'm having a look at the major indices. Last week I spoke about my concerns today just being this increasing divergence, and therefore there was a possibility of some sort of correction. We didn't really have that at all. Actually, we had a very small retracement. The market managed to rebound and close ultimately higher on quite a few of the charts. And in fact, some of that divergence has actually worked its way out of the system. I still stand by the monthly being overextended now, and the weekly continuing to sort of climb a little bit higher. As I said before as well, in isolation, the daily and the weeklies continue to look good. I'm just noting here that the Dow has bumped its head here again against that sort of 30,100, 31,100. But there is, again, not showing any real bearish divergence here. So it's possible there may well be a consolidation before we get a breakout to the upside, but not showing any really bearish reaction to this, despite the fact that there was previously quite a bit of divergence. So now the S&P continued, produced a nice little fresh high here. Again, indicators are looking relatively flat. That weekly candle looks pretty good, not too overextended. Still overextended on the monthly. So although I'm kind of at this point still waiting for at some point a bigger correction, I really don't want that to necessarily be something that overrides any of the practical decisions. I still am expected at some point to happen, but without wanting to be very much the kind of the sky is falling. Just noting here as well, looking on the NASDAQ, that continued up, had a beautiful week. Actually, it was a really nice bullish candle subsequently that continued on up. And so there was a nice little swing opportunity there. We went into a temporary downtrend, but and continued up here. I could just see this is pretty much flat so far. The MACD not looking as bearish as it did, and a really strong weekly candle there. It's now starting to become a little bit more overextended, certainly on the daily. Certainly a little bit on the weekly and definitely on that monthly basis. So of course, I think for my approach will be as a trader is obviously just to proceed based off intraday and the end of day swing trading opportunities. And of course, at the same time, keeping in mind that we will have a correction at some point, and certainly that will happen when it will happen. Finishing off here with the Russell 2000, this continued on upwards at an incredibly kind of polished week, right up into that, finishing with a strong bullish candle. That weekly has just continued all the way away from the moving averages that are fanning out, obviously running roughly parallel to each other. And this very, very nice. And this monthly now becoming ridiculously overextended, heading up towards 2,200. So all of this, again, supporting the idea the markets are still keen to continue on upwards. Again, I'll just approach it with caution if I am going to see any potential trade setups. Just means making sure that I do have that stop loss in place in case there is a stronger correction. Meanwhile, as we head away from the US, we look at the UK FTSE 100. Just looking here to see there was more of a correction, at least this way. We had a weekly retracement. Potentially the market wanted to come down to test 6550 this week. It may find support and attempt to bounce up from that support level. The German DAX really relatively choppy actually on a daily basis. That weekly doing a bit of a consolidation. And so again, this might be looking to consolidate before continuing higher. But if it does do a deeper retracement, come back and test this previous level of resistance for support, that's perfectly acceptable. But in terms of buying opportunities, looking at the French CAC, that's gone into a downtrend, back down at 5520. Previous monthly level of support and resistance. Again, I'll be looking for that. That's a weekly retracement, looking to see if we do manage to find support above these levels and continue on. So there's a distinct difference between the US markets and the non-US markets so far, and that may just be as a result of the policies. And then having a look here, for example, at the Euro stocks. This one's struggling to get back over that 410 level. Really like to see that get back over that level. If it does come back down to the monthly 400 level, again, similar to the others, might provide nice level to test, let off some buying steam and test that for support. Then heading away from Europe towards Japan, having a look how the Nikkei has had a really good run. It's connected close enough effectively with 29,000. A little bit overextended on that weekly. I wouldn't mind a nice little correction there to see it have a retracement. It's certainly well overextended. It might actually be attempting to push its way up towards 30,000, but at some point I do expect a deeper correction there on the monthly timeframes. The daily itself not showing too much bearish divergence, and actually just showing a little bit of a double top here. So any kind of a consolidation this week or a bit of a correction would simply be a smaller or healthier retracement on the weekly before looking for entry opportunities to the upside. But so far in isolation, again, looking really nice and strong. and actually this behavior, this similar pattern over here where it's a consolidation before breakout to the upside. The ASIC in Australia here has broken solidly, visually at least, above 6,800. That's quite nice to see that. Solid consolidation, which is a weekly consolidation here before finishing with a nice bullish candle. Actually, of the lot so far, this is the one that looks as though it's managed to have a bit of a nice correction and is now prepared to continue to head higher. So this one makes the most sense for me, any kind of pullback here. But certainly I think it's reasonable to see it continue on upwards towards 7,000. There isn't much of that going on. Otherwise, the MACD started to go a little bit flat. RSI's gone bullish, and so all of that looks pretty good. Just take a quick look at, say, Tesla, for example. Tesla being very, very overextended here on a monthly basis, gone parabolic, and it's doing a bit of a consolidation. We've got a nice little inside candle, bearish inside indecision candle. We've followed by what looks like another bearish indecision candle. So we've effectively got a flag pattern here, and we'll see if this ultimately breaks to the downside or to the upside. But a nice little correction on the weekly down to 700 would be very nice to see that happen. So I'll be looking for breaks of the lows of that to see that market head back down towards this. Having a look at Apple. So Apple's continued, it's done, technically speaking, a correction on that monthly basis and continued up and created new highs. You can see here on the weekly a very strong bullish candle taken off from the moving averages, broken through this level so far of resistance. And on the daily, it's struggling here obviously to create fresh highs, but so far looking incredibly bullish and already a little bit overextended. So the week in review just shows that some of these markets are incredibly bullish. They're almost as though there's quite a bit of tequila in the punch bowl, but so be it. If we could participate in that, so be it. But I do want to be, in terms of a bigger picture awareness, that this is unusually bullish. This is very much, in my mind, bubble behavior. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm an investor, for me personally, I would potentially be adjusting my portfolio a little bit away from stocks, diversifying towards bonds perhaps. But in terms of trading opportunities, as long as these bullish opportunities continue to show up, to potentially take advantage of them, because remember that trading opportunities are shorter term moves. We're really only looking for a single move to the upside, and therefore if the trend does ultimately change into a downtrend, we'll simply adapt to that. But right now, again, just commenting that the last week, especially, these markets continue to look quite bullish. The European markets consolidating a little bit, maybe due for a little bit of a smaller correction. The US markets and outside the European markets, all of them really looking quite bullish. I'll keep the idea of at some point in the future there being a deeper correction. But again, as long as those dailies and weeklies are looking relatively nice and healthy and not too overextended, I'll continue to stay with my strategy and obviously trade in line with the existing bull market. That's it from me. Thank you. Have a great week, and chat to you next week.